Thank you all so much for having me. It is an honor and a blessing, and it's an honor. I don't take the space, I don't take you all for granted, and I'm excited for what Yah is going to do today. So if you don't have this, you're going to need this, because as you heard, I like to teach, so I can't just talk to you. I have to make you do something at the same time. That's my check for understanding. That's how I know that you understand what I'm saying. So I'm gonna kind of give you do it just like I do when I teach. So we're gonna get some objectives. What are we gonna hit today? So our objective today is to arrive at the understanding of what it means to hear Yah and to be able to repeat that over and over and over again. I'll give you some background. Over the past 8 months, I have been on this I need to know, I know my hands, I know my face in the mirror, that I've heard Yah clearly. And it's important to me because a lot of people feel, especially when we feel a lot. And so we feel things, so we think we heard Yah. And then we do things based upon those feelings and then realize that, nope, that was Chipotle. That was not Yah. And as you can only imagine, people reach out to me all the time and say, Yah told me to tell you. Yah said to me to say to you. And I'm like, my response now, so if you ever get an email, if you've ever said that to me, my response is, did Yah tell you to say that? And then people go, well, nobody was allowing Yah. We went past that, right? They're like, well, I was watching something you said, and I thought, and I said, did Yah tell you to say that? Because if Yah didn't tell you to say it, then you may be speaking amiss. And at this point, I believe in the awakening, where we are. We have to know, like we know that we heard Yah, because our lives depend on it, our very existence. So, with that being said, when I got the theme from Warren, I'm like, okay, sisters, my daughters, faith. And so, my first mind is okay, faith, I can do that. Faith, I've done that lesson before. And I was like, and I was trying to turn down Faith Street, and he was like, and I was like, so if you've driven these new cars, they have this turn assistance thing on. So if you stray from your lane, the car just puts you back in your lane. Yeah, I was like, get back in your lane. Get back in your lane. And I'm turning over to Faith Street, and he's like, look. So my car does this thing. If you get over into the lane, if you don't signal, it'll just slam on the brakes. And literally. Yeah, I turned Honda. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I was like, what have I been talking to you about? And he was like, hearing your voice, like a child, hearing you. He's like, that's what you're going to talk about. And I was like, okay, but how does it fit into, he's like, that's not your business. Right? So, it didn't click for me until I got literally on East Coast soil. And I was like, how can you have faith and be securely fasting? That's what faith is. If you don't know, you know what you believe. Come on, what you believe. I was like, wow, okay. I got it. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna talk a little bit at the beginning, so I'll give you a little monologue, a little storytelling. And it's just Bible. I hope everybody minds that. I'll give you that part first. And then after that, we're gonna do some work. Yeah. Because we have to do some uprooting. We have to do some healing before we can hear. I was talking to, I'll call her sister of mine. I was talking to a sister of mine, and she said, Huldah, when you go through things, you got to make sure you get through the layers. She said, because what happens is you think you're standing outside of the rubble, yay, victory. She said, but actually the real you is buried at the bottom of it. And she said, so you have to dig you out so that you can hear clearly. She's like, so imagine layers and layers and layers, and Yah is speaking loud and clear, but it's not. And I was like, okay. So I'm gonna today, my goal is to make sure you know, one, what it means to hear. So we learn Hebrew words, there's a Hebrew chart in the back, and we're going to work through it. So be patient with me, be patient with yourself. If you never wrote in Hebrew before, you will today, because there's empty spaces inside of that book for you to write in. If you don't have a pen, can you just throw your hand up so somebody can either share a pen or pass a pen? Okay. Awesome. So the journal part, we're going to get to that in a second, is called intentional inclination. Right? Intentional inclination, fancy for, on purpose hearing. It just rhymed. That's all. That's the only reason. Okay, so I'm just going to go back, and I'm going to go back to the beginning. So Isaiah says, right, the end is declared from where? The beginning. So if we want to figure out something, where do we go back to? The beginning. Everything is in the beginning. If you jump past the beginning to figure something out, it's not the beginning, and it's probably going to be a little bit skewed from what that was. So we're going to go all the way back to creation. Why? When we get back to creation, everything is perfect. Everything is just as it's supposed to be. And so when we talk about realigning, when we talk about getting back to something, it's not just getting back to who we are as a people. That's amazing. That is amazing, don't get me wrong. But even before that, we need to get back to who Yah is, because it defines who we are, and then it tells us how we're supposed to respond to not only Him, but to one another. So when we go back to creation, something interesting is happening in the process of hearing, right? Yah constantly does three things. He says, then He calls, then He affirms. So literally, if you read it back through Genesis 1, so then Yah said, and then He called, whatever He said, whatever it was, and then He says, it was good. That's an affirmation, right? He goes and He says, okay, let there be, and then it was, right? And then He called it, whatever He called it, and then He said, it was good. And He does that over and over and over again. It's a consistent pattern that happens. So now we know, not only can we go back and look at it, but we know what it's called, and we know it's good. So if we know it's good, then we can align to what is good, what is tov, right? What is functional. So Yah does this over and over and over again. But one of the things that I didn't see when I was going back over this was the word Shema in like the first 3 chapters. Normally when I go back and do a word study, normally I'm going to hit the word like right in the beginning. Like, especially something like heard. You would think that somebody heard Yah within like the first chapter. I was like, wait, Shema doesn't come up until chapter 3. And chapter 3 is when we mess it all up. Okay. So the Hebrew word Shema, right? We just do it, Shema Israel. Right? We normally say it means hear, to obey, to listen. Like, well, nobody listened, heard Yah before chapter 3? Right? I'm just perplexed. It really threw me for a loop. And I was like, oh, what happened? Yah was heard throughout heaven and earth, for sure. If He said, then He was heard. And literally in the beginning it said that, literally His voice went out, it vibrated, and everything was created by the power of His word. So clearly He spoke, and everything responded. So clearly it heard, right? So we know that Yah was heard because it said that He said. And things began to respond. The light was, the fish came forth, so forth and so on. Each element in creation heard its function and arranged itself in the necessary position to manifest or express itself in the way which the Creator intended. Mankind was no different.
That's right.
Everything was created and responded, check this word, to the command of the Creator. It's not until sin was committed that the natural order of things began to unravel. So everything that Yah said leading up to Genesis chapter 3 was a command. It wasn't, Yah said it, everything did it. It wasn't like, well, let me think about that. And to what degree would you like me to shine? and how many scales would you like me to? That was not that. It was clearly understood. Until Adam and Hawa disobeyed Yah, Yah was seen in His fullness. So there was no disconnection. There was no, where's Yah? How do I find Yah? How do we call upon him? When will he show up? If we ask, will we really get? None of what we deal with was there. I know it's hard to imagine. Like, just literally like, yeah, would you like me to go over here? And he's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, what is this? Oh, that's a behemoth. And what does that mean? It is what it is. Oh, okay. Just that simple. Everything was just very clear. There was no need to conceal his glory. There was no need to put a distance between us and him. Not only was he in communion with them, but they could also see a testament of everything he was in everything that he created. They were like, so should we worship the sun? Is the sun Yah? No, it's the moon. They were like, no, everything speaks to his glory. Perfect understanding. Yah was heard by his undeniable fame. I'm going to give you the definition of that in a little bit. According to his fame, when Yahuwah spoke, everything reacted with appropriate action. Everything. Creation was so in sync with the Creator that it worked effortlessly. And the same was true of man. We were literally supposed to see the manifestation of Elohim through the humans, us and them, he created, just like the heavens and the earth declare Yah's glory. It's that simple. Yahushua said, when you see me, right? What did he say? Y'all know. You see the Father. Literally, what you see and what I do and how I behave is you seeing Elohim. That was supposed to be us. So the question is, well, what went wrong? What went wrong? That seems pretty easy. So I know this story's familiar, but kind of come back with me through this. You're like, I know what happens. I'm going to highlight some things. So in Genesis 3, and this is what we're going to work on when we do our soul care. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 5, a seed of doubt was sown into the heart of woman and man, which caused them to question what they heard and what they obeyed naturally. When Yah said something, they just did it. He's like, don't eat that. Right? It wasn't like, well, why? Like, you haven't shown me that I can trust you yet. That was like, no. You don't want me to eat it? Sure, you've done all this, I have all this to have. Not a problem. Seed of doubt was sown, and the question turned into doubt, and the doubt manifested into double vision. You know what double vision is? Have you ever got dehydrated or hit your head or just had double vision where it's like, I see two things and I don't know what's the real thing. It's like almost like a mirage in a lot of ways. I could be looking at this, there's a pole here and a pole here, but I don't know which one to walk into because they both look like the real thing. And I walk toward one and I think it's not the real thing and I hit my head and I walk toward, I don't know up and down anymore. So the double vision took the focus off Yah, which always, not sometimes, not maybe. If I take my focus off Yah, maybe, no, always leads to sin. Yeah. Why? Because sin, by definition, is missing the target. If I take my eyes off the target, how do I hit the target? Anybody play sports? Okay, I play a little bit of basketball, right? And there's no way I can shoot this way and hit the hoop that way. No. There's no way I can hit the hoop that way if I don't square my shoulders. Right? The core of who I am gives direction to the trajectory of the ball. Is it like that with all sports? If you play baseball, softball. So if Yah is the target, and I take my eyes off of him and try to aim that way, there's no way. Maybe by chance. And a lot of us existed that way for a long time. When we were in different religious constructs, we were hitting the mark by chance. So we were like, I've always known Yah by chance. You were like, you sometimes hit it and sometimes you were very off. Like, that's just what happens when your eyes are not focused on the target. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 5, Hasatan says, Elohim knows, I'm paraphrasing, that the day you eat of this tree, that your eyes will be open. especially like, ain't I seeing right now? Like, right? Your eyes will be open, and ye shall be as Elohim, should be as gods, knowing good and evil. This all makes sense. This is just me talking. When we go to the Hebrew word, you'll be like, oh, that's what she's talking about. Before this moment, Adam and Shua did not have to worry about the consequence of action. Every time right now we do something, we worry about, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this right? Oh, what does this feel? Because, and the fact that we are still working out our governor inside, we got to make sure that what feels right is right. Because sometimes it can feel right and be wrong.
That's right.
I watched a movie, my grandmother used to like movie Sparkle, old school one. She said, how can something that feels this good be wrong? Because it is. Because it is. Because it is. They didn't have to worry about that. When they did something because they were obeying the command of Yah, they didn't have to worry about it. My mom, she's over there. Hey, girl. Says, do what Yah says to do and leave the consequences to him. They operated perfectly in that area. I'm doing it. Yah told me to do it, and okay. That's like the safest place to be right now. Like we read, right? Read the Bible, and you say, okay, that's what Yah said to do. And then when you do it, and then Yah comes and say, well, why'd you do that? I read it right here. So people ask, like with Torah keeping, and of course you guys all have family who are in different walks of life, and they say, well, why? Why do you do that? Well, we don't have to do that. I said, well, somebody told you we didn't have to do it. But Yah told me that I have to do it. I can't take somebody's word to Yah and say, well, Yah didn't do it because they said. So I would rather, this is just me. I grew up with a mom and a dad, but a mama, where if she said to do something, I would rather risk my life doing that thing than to come home having not done it. And so it's the same with Yah. If I'm doing too much by trying to keep Torah, not eating what he says not to eat, worshiping when he says to worship, and I find out when I get to him, he's like, you know, you don't have to do all that. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it made me better.
Yes.
But if I don't, and I arrive there, and he says, why didn't you do? It's too late. So I'm going to obey him and leave the consequences to him. Right? It's just easy. It's just easy money. Okay, so their action was based in perfect obedience. That doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't have questions. This is just me. Don't take this to the bank. But humans are made with infinite amount of potential, which means that we have the ability to ask questions. We have the ability to search and seek. So when you read Genesis, you have people who are like, I'm going to figure out everything about the world that happened from these chapters. And Yah was like, no, that's what your life is for. Like, go out and look. Go out and examine it. It's right there in front of you. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to write it down. It's still here. It's still obedient. You're not. So go find out what it's still doing, because it's still doing what I made it do. Apples are still apples. Oranges are still oranges. Seeds still bearing after its own kind. Grass is still grass. Go grab a microscope. Go look at it. Explore it. That's what makes life interesting. He left that part so that he could see what you would do with what he gave you. All he gave out of, like, no rules, really. I mean, like, don't eat that, because that's going to mess up everything. Right? And have fun. Like, go out, name the animals. Like, you and your wife, go make babies. Do stuff. This is amazing. Like, she was like, to the trees. Like, wait, but there's all this over there. So likewise, when we align with Yah, there are no consequences for our actions. Can somebody read for me Galatians 5:22 through 23? You guys have heard this before, but it literally is the simplicity of what I just said. When we obey Yah, there's no consequences for our actions. And read in your loud and proud voice. Yes, go ahead, sis.
But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things
self-control. Against such things, there is no law. So people are like, well, I don't want to keep the law. Then do the good stuff.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to. Like, because in what he says to do, there's no boundary for that. There's no boundary for good. There's no boundary for what is functional. So you're like, no, yes, you are free to live outside of the law when you're obedient to him. It's pretty basic. But people don't see it like that. They're like, wait, but I don't want to be under the law. Then do what he said to do. Then you're not. You're free. You're free to move about. Okay. So then what happens? What happens? He's like, so against these things there is no law. So then Hasatan comes to the woman, and he tells the woman that her eyes would be open. But what he didn't tell her, now we're getting to where I'm going. What he didn't tell her was that there would be separation and chaos attached to the experience. That's the Hebrew word for today. I'll show you in a picture. She didn't know that from this moment forward, she would have to go through the process of hearing before she obeyed. She would have multiple voices now playing in her head instead of just Yah's. Before this moment, doing was simple because it was natural. Now obedience will become unnatural. Now obedience requires extra steps. We now have to separate from chaos to see clearly, when before we just experienced and saw. What we saw is what it was. We'd have to say, is that person really being nice to me? Do they have ulterior motives? Are they being manipulative? Are they We have to go through all this stuff just to say hi. Like, seriously, just give a hug. We're like, are they going to respond back? No, come here. Get a hug. Like, all these awkward things that we deal with, they weren't there. It was just like, okay, you're good, I'm good. Let's give a hug. Let's just, right? So, with all of the new steps, though, we don't get to abandon the first truth. That's also something from my mom. She says, you have to obey the first truth before Yah gives you another truth. So you can't, like I say, you can't jump in the middle of the book and say, I'd like to start from here with, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Yah, and the Word was Yah. We would jump right there, and it's like, wait, no, that's actually just Genesis 1:1. John was like, go back to the beginning. Like, if you don't know what this is about, you got all these chapters, 30-something, to come to before you get here. We have to obey the first truth, and that is obedience to the Creator. Genesis 3:6-7, it says, and the woman saw that the tree was good for food. Now she's using her eyes. Before, Yah said she did. Now she's like, let me look at it. Right? And then she saw it was pleasant to the eyes. She's like, ain't anything wrong with this tree? It looked like all the other trees. And the tree to be desired to make one wise. Now, some of you guys know some Hebrew words. This is not the word chokmah, like we see in like Proverbs and Psalms, where it talks about the wisdom of training the palate, right? So that you know and you can discern. This is a wisdom of taking your own hand, right? Separating to your own hand and choosing your path. It's like a wisdom that you learn skillfully through experience. She's like, I'm going to experience something. It's going to make me smart. Let me tell you something. And I'm like, she can make you. I know y'all been through some stuff. Y'all listen to your parents. It's like it's when you're young, and I like to think that I still have retained my youth in that way. Because I bought my mom a sign the other day from probably Home Goods, and it said, thank you, Mom, I get it now. Because they have already experienced it. They know already what's on the other side. You don't understand. He loves me. Like, love comes with a behavior, honey. It's not because he took you to the movies and he drives a fast car. Right? Like, they know. They know. They know. And so if Yah said, then guess what he does? He knows. He knows. I made you. I know. It's your parents. It's the first relationship that you have that's a representation of your relationship with Yah. Like, that's what he gives them for. It's like, they know. They know you. Like, I know you. I know your tendencies. I know your quirkiness. I know your moodiness. I know that in 6 months you're not gonna like this boy. It's true. So, with that being the case, trust your parents. If they say something, even with simple things, like we think like, oh, with school, like I like this school. And we're like, okay, I know you like to come home and eat. Don't go 7,000 miles away. You'll be back. That's me. That's me. So trust the process. So she looked at it and she wanted to be wise. She wanted to direct her own path. Like if I can if I can control it, then I can choose. Choice. So she took the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also to her husband with her. We do that, right? We don't like to eat by ourselves. I am a pack animal, and I don't like to eat by myself. You eat and I'm eating. I just ate, but I'm eating again. Like, it looks good on your plate. I want to try it. It's just who we are. We like to share. And we tend to share a lot of things. We tend to share our thoughts. We tend to share our beliefs and yeah, I was like, hold on. Let me work this out. So she gives it to him, and he ate it too. He was like, she cooked good. Right? You know, he didn't eat it deceptively. He ate it on purpose. He did. He definitely did. He was not deceived. Scripture says that. So don't ever believe that. And the eyes of them both were opened. We have been trained that the sole result of disobedience was sin. Blanket statement. Period. With a T at the end. But the real issue that caused death was man taking his experience into his own hands. See, you didn't create the experience. You don't get to control the experience.
Wow.
You didn't create the simulation, if you will. So you don't get to manipulate it. You're going to be a bug in the system. It's the matrix. And it's the same thing, right? If you move into your parents' house, you don't get to create the experience. In my house. In my experience. Enjoy it. You don't like the experience? Create your own experience. That's great. Create it for yourself. And don't be trying to come back here when it don't work out. Like, you will realize that this food does not, populate in this refrigerator like the video games. It takes money. It doesn't grow on trees. You have to work for it. Yeah, like this is what pretty much Yah was saying to them, right? So the real issue, though, is that man wanted to become his own decision maker. But what happens when you make your own decisions? You have to pay for the consequences by yourself. When Yah makes the decisions, then he pays for the consequence. When we make our decisions, then we have to pay for the consequence. We don't have the compensatory currency to pay for our consequences. There's only one price for sin, and it's blood. And yours won't do it. You won't do it. You don't have it. You can't create it. You can't manufacture it. You can't raise a baby. You can't make it a Nazarite. And this not going to do it. He's like, And then the bulls and the goats, he's like, no, that was practice. Yeah. That wasn't it either. He's like, no. So they became their own decision makers. And when we make our own decisions and we live like we want to, we are no longer under the covering of the Father, and we bear our own consequences. When Adam and Hawa disobeyed, they had to be their own covering, which was instant death. Instant. The wages of sin is. The wages of removing your covering is. Instant. Just instant. Whew. Detached from the covering of the Father, we are dead. Okay. He covers. He put a covering on us that made us okay to commune with him. You take it off, you're not okay to commune with me, it's death. So that's why you had the temporary covering of the blood on the altar. It created a little bit of like, just hurry up and say what you got to say. The death angel was like, you can't stay in there too long. And only one of y'all can come, because if too many of y'all come, it may be all bad. Like, and literally, and put some bails on the brother. Because if he do drop dead, somebody got to pull him out, because I don't want the dead body in here either. Like, it was that serious. It was that serious. He was like, come behind this covering. And I'm just going to let my train kind of just hang in, because I can't even, and I'll talk to you between the mercy seat when you put that on, but say it quick, because yeah, for people, and amen. And like, hurry up. So we can't be our own covering. All that we have been trying to do up until this present point is to just get back under the Father's covering. That's what we're doing. This is what this is. This is what makes the work of Hamashiach so precious, because it was through his obedience that we were restored back, placed back under the covering of the Father. But to avoid being exposed in our want to live according to our own hand and way, we must learn how to hear. Here we go. See, it took a turn. It was like turn to ship. We must learn to hear Yah, obey, and respond in action. God doesn't want our lip service. He's like, y'all lips, I already know. They speak, but your heart be like, that's what it is. So now that we understand how a simple seed of doubt can destroy a functioning system, we're going to do a word today to realign to the Creator and his purpose for us. We're going to do the work of uprooting and realigning. There is nothing more precious than trusting Yah. In order to do so, we have to know what he is saying. To hear what he's saying. All right, so this is where you guys get to do some work. You don't have to listen to me. We're going to do this together. We're going to do this together. All right, so my word for today, all of that was said, literally came from this word, and you'll see it in just a second. I'll carry this. Okay. All right, so our Hebrew word for today is Shema. Let me say it over again. Here, Shema. Okay, so in front of you, you have, let's look at it. You have this page. We're going to turn past this page. And I'm going to give you a little bit about the words. Let me see what I want to do. Let's go back. No, we'll go back. Let's just dwell there for a second. Okay, so I'll read to you the fancy words I wrote at the top. I just wrote it like that because I might want to use it later. So I said, in the Western mental construct, we think that hearing is a simple act of auditory activation. Yet in recent studies, and if you want the studies, email me. In recent studies, scientists and psychoanalysts have begun to agree with the Hebrew understanding of hearing, which defines hearing as an active verbal root that requires several levels of response from the subject who is heard. Many of you, through life experience, know that the words people speak to you drive how you behave and live. We'll get into that in a second. Today we're going to explore the dangers of passively receiving and the journey of cultivating a lifestyle of hearing Yah as he intended. To become a daughter who is securely fastened, we must know the voice of the one who governs the house. His voice first. Okay, so we're going to look at this Hebrew word. So let's go. I'm going to go here, and then we're going to kind of, I don't want to cheat you. You guys have time, right? I don't want to cheat. Okay. Words spoken to us and on us or over us can be a blessing and a curse. Okay? So I have a friend of mine, she thinks it's so funny because I tell her, I'm like, don't just walk up and lay your hands on me and start praying for me. She's like, she loves to pray. I didn't know her at the time. And I was nicer than I'm saying it right now, but we know each other. So I can tell you how I was thinking it. And I said, ask me first. Because it's my responsibility to discern whether I should let you pray or speak anything to me. Because people say, I have a word for you. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to hear it. And let me tell you why. People, depending on the vessel is not trained. The vessel is not purged and clean. A person will speak to you what you want to hear and have you go in the direction that Yah did not tell you to go. So people say, you are supposed to be this, and you are supposed to be like, well, that sounds good. And Yah was saying, sit down, shut up, and learn something. And then you go chasing what they said, and you're so far away from Yah that when you get over there, you're like, well, I haven't heard from Yah in a really long time. He's like, because I was standing back there like, that ain't what I want. It may be what I want for you, maybe, but I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you that. When somebody speaks something over you, it should be confirmed through the word first. Then you can determine how you feel about it, but the word don't really care how you feel about it. So then you can just be obedient, right? They're first. Yah is not saying anything outside of his word. He's not making up new things. And if you know you're disobedient, you know he ain't getting ready to give you nothing. Like, that was my mom's rule. Oh my God, don't ask for nothing that you know you don't deserve. Can I go to this weekend? Did you clean your room? Did you do your chores this week? Okay, then you have your own answer. Like, it's on you. Did you do what you're supposed to do? If I did, I'd be like, can I go? Okay, I'm out of here. All right, so the same thing is true. Words spoken in truth free us, and words used to hurt or harm us, usually based on other people's hurt and inadequacy, put us in bondage. You do. Words are powerful. I'm not on some like witchcraft spells, but words literally do things. That's why be careful what you say. The Messiah was a perfect example of that. He did not just, sun fall from the sky, because it would have. Like, you have to be careful what you say. You have to be careful what you say to yourself. Careful what you think. Careful what you say to your children. Careful what you say to your spouse. Words, like that whole sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me. They lied. Like hardcore lied. No, words hit me with a stick and a stone. I can heal from that. But those words are going to keep playing over and over and over again in my head. We have to be careful what we say and what we receive. Over the years, we have heard things that penetrated deep into the soil of our hearts and are continuing to produce weeds that choke out the good seeds of the word. So now we're dealing like Chua and Adam, right? Where now Yah is saying, hey, you're whole. You're like, no, I'm not. I'm so broken. I'm so broken up. He's like, I'm telling you you're whole because you can walk in it, because I'm going to make sure you understand as you walk in it. But we don't believe it because somebody said, you're not good enough, or you're broken, or you're this, or you're not smart enough. And so you're like, I can't do that. I can't learn that. Like, why? Why? Yah is created to be like children, right? That's how we should approach him. He says, only those who, do as a child, like act as a child, walk as a child, can even enter into the kingdom. We're like, no, I'm carrying my adult burdens. I like them. Guys, like, let them go. Let go of your ego. Let go of the, oh, I fell, I'm embarrassed. Like, you just fall. Like, you okay? Yeah. Like, you skipped up. No, it's okay. We fall. We just sit there. Somebody saw me fall. It's like, yeah, we did. And now you're still sitting there, it's making it worse. Now we'll laugh harder. Like get up. Get up. It actually happened to me not too long ago. We're working in February when I fell. Was that? I fall a lot, so maybe it was. But literally, like, I fell, and I was just like, wow, like, I felt so slow. It was in slow motion. I was like, no. Just let it happen. Just look at just like, I remember, funny, I was on a date with a guy. This is almost 20 years ago. And we got on some swings, right? And so I'm really goofy. So I'm like, hey, let's swing really high and then jump off. And he's like, okay. You go first. Okay. So I'm on the swing, and I'm swinging. I get to a comfortable height, and I jump high. And my legs were still like back on the swing, but my body went forward. And like the wood chips? And I had the wood chips like, boom. And it was like, why did you do it? I don't know. The wood chips all stuck to my face. Yeah, that didn't work out, actually. That didn't work out. It's like, you're too much of a risk taker for me. But don't do that. Okay. So, let's get back to the words. So words, though. Words, literally, words seem deep inside. But if we handle it like a child, then it's not something, we know how to uproot them. Children are very resilient. Normally when you see damaged children, I've worked in classrooms and done ministry, it's because something has been repeated over and over and over again, or they're hypersensitive and they repeat it back to themselves. And I know we don't like to feel like this, but it's when we're cyclical. So we are going to nurture the seed of doubt, the seed of hate, 50 to whatever it is, we're going to ruminate on it. And we're going to bring it back around. And so Ben hate this, but it's hard for us. Like, that happened 10 years ago. Yeah, but we never fully resolved it. Because why? Because you didn't uproot it. And when we don't uproot it, then every instance that triggers that is actually water. And now the roots go so deep that now sometimes like the whole relationship is trash. Because when we go through all this, you bring up the same thing because it's the root cause for everything else that's happening. And so if we don't know how to deal with the root causes of things, then we keep ourselves in bondage. Like Shawan, sin is bondage to what the adversary said way before we even got here, the doubt. So we're going to do a simple exercise to uproot negative to make room for the positive. So Maricela from San Francisco State University, this is one of those articles I was talking about. It talks about how consciousness works. Right? Everybody's like, what is consciousness? It's kind of what it is. What you do. Stimuli in the environment are very important in determining what we end up thinking about. And once a plan of action is strongly activated, its many effects can be hard to override. Pretty much all it says is once a seed is planted, it's going to tell you what to do. And it's going to be really hard to override. We operate based off of subconscious. You're like, I'm conscious right now. But you decided weeks ago that you're coming today. You obeyed yourself from weeks ago. You didn't really do anything today but get up. And so a lot of us are obeying stuff from years ago.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
And every day you get up and you're just doing what somebody years ago told you to do. So we're gonna look at that. Look at that for just a second, because I can't move forward without we had to dig a little bit.
That's good.
Did you know I like to garden a little bit too? So we're gonna plow, dig. So on this next page, it says what they say / I have believed. And I don't want you to go on forever, because I don't want to, unpacking boxes is delicate. I don't know anybody who likes to move, ever. Because the worst part is going back to the boxes and having to pull everything out. So I'm asking you to be gentle with yourself. Hold yourself in a very, very delicate manner as we do this. But I want you to be authentic too. I want you to grab it from the roots. Has anybody ever pulled up weeds? You know, if you grab a weed from the top, like the little flimsy part, and you break it, the roots are still there. And I am a firm believer that the roots just get angry and get more aggressive. Call some cousins. So the proper way to dig out roots, especially if they're deep roots, is to kind of dig and find, when you pull the root out, you should see like those tiny, tiny baby roots. Because what it's trying to do is send out more, even deeper. Well, we want those. But be gentle. Be gentle. Don't just rip off the top and then you in here, then calling cousins. Like, no. we want to get those. And I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, so I want 5 things. I know there's more. So I don't know a love without conforming to what somebody else thinks I'm supposed to be. It's a root cause. So then I get up, it hurts my feelings. I know, I'm gonna tell you, like when people write me mean things, they're like, I went through a lot not to be misunderstood, and I really wanted people to like what I was gonna say. I'm caring less, by the way. But like that, like why does that bother me? Why does it bother me when people say mean things about me? You know you're not that person, because the only love I know is to be who you think I should be. And now I've disappointed you, and now I'm disappointed in me. See how that, like,
Yes.
Okay, so that's a root cause. So how many of you guys, like, maybe like 5 or 6 minutes, I'll give you time to get some water, and then you guys just kind of sit in that. Give me 5 things that are root causes, and what they say, or I have believed. It could be either or, what somebody said to you, or what you just believe about yourself. Okay? If you're still thinking, or if you didn't have, I'm if you didn't have enough time. This is yours. I'm not going to take it. I'm going to look at it. You got to hand it back to me at the end. This is something, as I was doing, I'm like, yeah, this may take a little more time just to kind of unpack it. So this is for you. And as we work through today, you'll have all the tools to go back if you were like, I'm stuck here, or we're gonna uncover this. I'm gonna make a meeting of this. So don't feel like, okay, you open this box. What are you doing? We're gonna close it. So on the other side, and this is something I want you to take and spend time with, but on the other side, it says, what does the Yah say? What does the Yah say? For every word that is spoken, misspoken, there is truth to match it. So earlier I talked about like spells, right? I don't know if you... I'll say this. When I was growing up, I used to read Harry Potter. I've never let you read Harry Potter, but I was like, that was me. I'm that generation. And so spells, right? They're spoken and then somebody has to unloose them. Well, in Torah, it's not magic, it's real. When we see it in function all throughout Scripture, but we see it in its fullness when Messiah comes. There are things that, spirits and things that bound themselves to people. And literally, Yeshua uses like women that are loosed. Like literally use that word. Why? Because she was bound by something. Something held her tightly. Things that she had done, whatever it was. And so on the other side, and this is why it's so important to read your Bible. Not just study. Study is important. But reading it and knowing it like you know your favorite movie is important, because when somebody says something, you gotta have like, what's that stuff you use when you, like a weed killer, right? Immediately you gotta know how to kill it. Like right off the bat. Cannot let it take root. Because sometimes it takes root silently. Words are silent killers. Because by the time you know they're there, the damage is already done. And so what I have on the other side, and this is where you spend some time with Abba, what does he say? And not just the ones that the first thing that pops in your head, but literally what literally looses the latches of those words. So I'll give you one. Like if somebody says, you're broken. There's no hope for you. You can't be fixed. Yah says, through his stripes, you're healed. Boom, easy. So then now what you have to combat with, and we'll get to that Shema, right? Now you have to deal with what they said, and now what he said, and which one I'm going to believe. Because now that's on you. The adversary's talking. Yah has spoken by command. It's not like, well, you're maybe healed. No, like you're healed, period, command. It's imperative. That's what it is. So if you don't want the healing, then you're choosing now to stay broken. Choosing it. We choose a lot of what we deal with because we're like, yeah, you can't handle this. Is it strong enough? Auntie. Like, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's just one of them. And so right here I would put, it is often difficult to apply what we know. But true knowledge, true wisdom is application of the knowledge. So many of us can articulate the words of Scripture. We can communicate to others how the words and deeds of other people are no match for the love and words of Elohim. But we struggle to apply those same principles to our lives. So on your time, this will be where you can go back through these next two spaces. Spend some time in them. Take some time throughout the week. Get a little time, a little meditation time. You should all have meditation time, by the way.
Absolutely.
It's not like some Buddhist practice of, no, align. Align. Take out time. Don't keep stealing time. Take out intentional time to hear Yah. As mothers, wives, sisters, we steal time. Try to get time in between. It's like, yeah, you can't hear because you're like, I'm gonna read my Bible while these kids do da-da-da-da. It's like, no, find that time. Even if it's just 5 minutes. Because then you'll make that 5 minutes grow to 10 minutes. And that 10 minutes will grow. Start with 5, start with what you can. And Yah will make room. Everybody was like, I need an hour. Well, guess what? You're not gonna start off with an hour. It's like saying, I'm gonna run 6 miles and you never ran before. Like, you're not gonna do it. And you're gonna be discouraged and you're never gonna run again. Start with 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of and maybe it's nothing. Just sitting there with a piece of paper and nothing. And then when you get up, like, that was nice. and move on from there. All right, let's reprogram. Okay, we heard what we have in our mind now what people have said to us. It's like, oh, now this is floating through my mind. I'm watering over here, Huldah. Come on, turn off the sprinklers. Let's turn off the sprinklers. Okay, so let's reprogram. Words mean things. So that space that you have, this first blank space, we're going to break down what it means to hear. So you have 2 here, and then 3 over here. So I'm going to give you 2 child roots, and then I'm going to give you like a parent root, okay? Or 2 parent roots and a child root. Okay, so we have, the word we're looking at right now is shin. There we go. Mem, ayin. If you never wrote Hebrew letters before, there's a chart on like the back pages. It's a chart on the back pages. So shin, mem, ayin. I'm going to give you pictographs for those of you who are like, I don't know any of this. I bet you know pictures. So, okay, teeth. Mem, what is that? Water. And what is this? So is anybody in here who's never, doesn't know any Hebrew? Just raise your hand, don't be shy. Did you know what that meant? Did you know what teeth? That was teeth, you know that's water, you know that's an eye. You know Hebrew. Hebrew is all pictures. It's all pictures. All of this is just the symbols for what the pictures mean. So don't be like, I don't know Hebrew, click. No, keep the light on. Keep the light on, keep the light on. You got teeth, you've seen water, you have eyes, you know Hebrew. Hebrew is all based upon senses, what you can see, touch, taste, smell, hear, feel, experience. So even if you don't know what this means, you have experienced teeth, you've experienced water, you've experienced an eye. So the process of hearing is defined in, loosely, I'll give you more, but defined in these pictures. It's defined in these pictures. So shin, does anybody know what shin represents? Teeth. To, what do you do with your teeth? Chew, like eat, cut, right? When I cut, I'm like tearing or rip away, destroy, separate, okay? What does water do? It flows, right? Cleanses. What's a negative of water? Water can also be like destructive or flooding or chaos, right? So we have separation, chaos, and then what do your eyes do? See or experience things, right? So I mentioned earlier that in Genesis chapter 3 is the first time where we get the word Shema. Well, what happened? Destruction, chaos, experience. Oh, that's why it's there. Before, there was no destruction. There was no chaos. There was only experience. So then we get some layers happening here. We get some layers happening here. So we're going to look at 2 sets of the layers. I'm going to break it down into like small pieces so we can digest and we'll get the big letter back up. So we have a loose idea of Shema as to move or to separate from chaos to see. Separate from chaos to see. We're talking about hearing now. Even though I know it's a seeing, hearing, okay? So in this word are like 2 smaller words. So the first one is shin, mem. Okay, does anybody know what shame means? Shem, shame. Baruch Hashem. Hashem is his name, so name, right? So one part, right. So one part of the word is shin. Name is loose, and name is abstract. What is a name supposed to do? I can't say what does it do because it doesn't really do it in our culture all the time. What a name is supposed to describe who you are, or what do you say? Define the characteristics of a person. Okay, so in Hebrew, David's name is his name, but it actually means beloved. Like, see? So a lot of people sometimes get confused when they see your beloved servant David. That's a translation. It's not always talking about just David. He's talking about the beloved. That's Messiah. But it's translated as David because that's the word for beloved. So a translator who comes from a westernized construct or from a European construct is like, oh, he's talking about David again. Gosh, he loves David. Like, but really, and then sometimes he's talking about building David's house, it's specific. Sometimes he's talking about literally the beloved, right? So that's an interesting one. So a name describes what a person is. Av, right? He's the strength of the house, right? So Aleph, Bet, right? So you see how that works together. So a name is also the breath of a person. Like it's your essence. It's who you are. That's why it's a shame when our parents don't consider what our name is. I named you because that was your daddy. Oh, I couldn't stand him. Well, thanks. Thanks a lot. Or I loved him so much. Well, thanks. Names pass on intention. Tells you who you're supposed to be. It literally guides your path. We were going through Isaiah recently, and Isaiah, Yah tells him, like, name your sons this, so that the Israel will know, right? In that name. Every time somebody saw them, they'd be like, ooh, Israel getting ready to be destroyed. Right? Ichabod. Oh, the spirit of Yah has left. Wow. It's rough. Every time you're like, I don't want to see Ichabod today. So that's what it does. So it's literally, Shem is a name or a character, but it's the breath. It's what makes a man or a woman who he or she is. He or she is. It also is a sweet aroma. A sweet aroma. All right? So this word also is an identifier. Shem is an identifier. It's how we identify something. Tell me your name. My favorite, and it's used over and over and over again, when Yah destroys, right, Egypt, and he says, I have established my name. And then when they go to all the places, right, they go out and they go to Jericho and they go to the Canaanites and they're like, oh, we heard. We, Shema, we heard of the fame of your Yah. The name, the breath, the essence of who he was preceded them. They were already scared. They were like, we whooped already. It goes before you. Okay? All right. The next one, so if you go to your next box, I'm going to give you the second two-letter grouping. That's why I was red pen. So the next one is Mem Ayin. Mem Ayin. So we have, I'm sorry.
Are we put
Yep, just write them
in this box?
So you write this, like the teeth in one, and then the water in another.
Oh.
Yep, and then when you get to the next one, you write the water in one, and there and there. So it gives you a lot of space to write if you never wrote before. You can write in whatever you want to write, though, whatever makes sense to you. It's just, I like boxes. I like boxes. Okay, so the second one, Mem Ayin. This one is interesting because it's the water experience. What's our water experience as humans? We all have one. Birth, the womb, right? Right? So character, fame, and then your water experience. So the literal definition of Mem Ayin is your gut. It's your gut. It's the gut. And it's defined as also your consciousness. You develop who you are in the womb. Babies are conscious of what's happening. They might not understand the experience yet, but they're conscious of what is happening. That's why they know their mother's voice, or they know familiar voices. And they come out and they look for them. And so they hear they cry and they're like, no, it's okay. And they're like, can't see good, but they're like, I know that lady. Like, I feel her. She feels. That is the development of your consciousness. It's developed in that space. And Yah says, in there, I knew you. Not like, oh, when you were born, you took your first breath. I was like, look at that cute baby. I think I'm going to, yeah, I like this. No, Yah was like, no, back then, when you were developing your consciousness, right, I was there. I knew you. I knit you there. I was already with you. I was already putting my 3,000 cents in on that one. That's his space. So you have your consciousness. You have your consciousness, and in that space, also in our gut, right? So like, why is gut and consciousness together? There's a book out, and it's a really good book. It's called The Mind-Gut Connection. Mind-Gut Connection. And we wonder why a lot of people that we know can't seem to like wake up. Wake up. It just seems so simple. What you do to your gut, what you put in your body affects your mind. Affects your mind. It affects your mind. This and this are connected. Hebraically, this is not the seat of your consciousness. This is. This is. So the idea of a gut intuition, I had a gut feeling. This is the seat of your emotion. Not here. We don't feel here. Feel here. We don't feel here either. We feel from here. And because we feel from here, we have to guard here. Everybody else tells us to guard here. But they don't tell us to guard here. So then if I've heard people like, oh, you know, I had these dreams, and I heard y'all speaking to me, and I go, well, what time did you stop eating? Because this is me going to tell them I don't want to hear your dream. What time did you stop eating? Well, I ate some hot food, and I went to the Indian place, and then I had this crazy dream about you, girl. It was the food. Save it. Save it. Like, think about the people who y'all gave dreams to. Just like kind of think back. They were normally fasting, right? They were normally in prayer. And if you don't know if they were fasting and prayer, they were in some distressing situation. So I'm sure they were fasting and praying, because fasting is not something that, it's not saying you can't do this, because you should. You can't call yourself into a fast. There's different levels of fasting. Sometimes situations are so distressing that food doesn't matter. I'm tore up about this. My stomach is unsettled. My gut. I'm feeling something from deep, deep down inside, and I don't. Another thing we do is something I've had to deal with. We suppress feelings by putting things into our mouth and putting them into our gut. You do. I don't want to feel that. So if I feel full, then I don't have to feel whatever that thing is. I'm anxious, so I eat. I don't want to feel this because I don't know what to do with what I'm feeling, because I don't know how to Shema. I don't know how to hear what's being spoken from my gut to my mind. Okay, so that's why it's a seat of consciousness, because it's driving what you do. So what you put into that gut is going to drive what you do. It's literally, eat too much sugar, when your blood sugar levels drop, I'm so hungry. So hungry. Why? Because your body's telling you what to do. Based on what you put in it. You put sustaining foods, you eat an avocado and some nuts and some berries and some whole grains. Obviously, like, dang, I just ate like 4 hours ago. I'm really not that hungry, but I know I need to eat. The difference, right? Now you are telling your body what to do, and your body's not telling you what to do. It's not a health food thing. I'm just telling you what I'm saying. Okay. So this also means gut consciousness, but it also means bowels, ingestion, and where you break down food. Okay? It also means naming, right? You feel who you are from the inside. I had a person say this, and it threw me for a loop for a second. She's like, you keep waiting for, and she used the word God. She said, you keep waiting for God to speak to you from the outside, but God speaks from within. It's like, let me think about that for a second. And I paused, and immediately I was like, Corinthians. He's like, oh, your body is a temple. And I'm seeking to dwell there. I say, go build me something. I'm asking you to build you, clean out you, so I can dwell inside and work on you from the inside out. And I was like, oh, so yeah, Yah speaks from within. So constantly seeking from without, then we get a bunch of different opinions. Yah is like, no, ingest my word so that you hear me. And then allow my word to cleanse you, allow it to cleanse out your bowels, your innards, your gut feeling, so that when I speak, it triggers here. Interesting, when Messiah was in his mother's womb, and Miriam goes to Elizabeth, the baby leaps in her womb. She felt it in her gut. She was like, I know like I know that's what that is. He didn't leap just because the baby was so like woke. She had an inner experience, and the baby was like, oh, mama feeling something, and I feel it too. That is a gut experience. That's that gut experience, knowing from the inside. And if that thing is tampered with, when somebody sows a false seed, then it changes your gut reaction to things. And so you'll trust bad people, and you'll listen to harmful things, and you'll harm yourself because you've been trained not to trust your gut. You've been trained not to trust the discernment that Yah's put you. When you meet somebody and then something weird happens, you're like, I knew I wasn't supposed to. Why'd you go against it? Why'd you do the opposite? Why'd you not trust it? Because somebody told you, you can't trust you. Yo, you think you know everything. Oh, you think God's giving you some kind of special. All of us have it. All of us have it. Eternity is bound up in who we are. Naturally. Kids do it all the time. My mom was big on this. I said next year, when kids don't want to hug people, don't make them. Now go give him a kiss. No, he's creepy. Like, no. Like, just don't do it. They don't want to. Because guess what you're training them to do? Now when they have a gut feeling, you trust them. Tell them not to trust it. Red flag.
Yeah.
Right? Hug them. Let them. Nobody's gonna know. People earn trust. People earn respect. Adults earn respect. You show a child that you can be trusted. One of the things in child development, they tell you, like, don't ever walk up and hug a child. Like, no, down here. Hi. Because then they're like, oh, you're not this intimidating giant over me. You've come down to my level. Yah's like, no, those who love you will meet you right where you are. I love you. So that Yah blessed man. That means that he actually knelt down. I know you little. Here you go. He didn't want to seem big and lofty. I want you to feel me personally. Trust your gut experience. If somebody's not being to you like Yah's been to you, it's a no for you. It's an absolute no for you. So then let's look at the whole word. So we have Shin, Mem, Ayin. Shin, Mem, Ayin. So before there was sin, there was just the experience. No pretenses, no nothing. So on that 3-letter box, you're going to write in the Shin, the Mem, the Ayin. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, we know now. We know that means to listen. But now we know what to listen to. See how the difference is? Hear, O Israel. Hear what? What? What am I supposed to hear? Well, now I know what hearing means. Now I know, one, if I'm inclining my ear, I'm going to talk about Yah first, and I'll go kind of to the negative. If I'm inclining my ear to something, I should know its character. I should know its fame. I should know why I'm trusting and obeying it, right? I should know what its intention is, and then I should also experience it. I should be able to feel it, and not just the feeling, but this should agree with this. So a lot of us, because of negative experiences, sometimes the character doesn't agree with our gut feeling. Like I said, we've been taught not to trust. So then it can be the opposite, where you can have a man, right? We use a man in this case, and he has good intentions. And he thinks you're beautiful. And he loves you like, love me. Like, no, I want red flag. It's like now you have red flags in the opposite direction. So then you have to test it. Test the water. Test the character. See if it aligns with what Yah says. And if it doesn't, run away. I have a couple friend of mine, they're marriage counselors. And I love them to death. And he uses this statement. He said, casual dating is practicing for divorce. Think about that. Casual dating is practicing for divorce. Because in casual dating, you don't care about any of this. And then guess what happens when you casually date? Then you start liking a person, and then all this goes out the window. You don't care about it. I love him though. His character, red flag. Like your gut, red flag. But I love him. Like all this goes out the window now. You've gotten caught up. But if you're intentional, then you already like, let me pick, nope. You don't even get a date. Not even first date, no date, right? So that character. So in the beginning, there was just the experience, but now we have to work through this. We have to work through now separating. Now we have to think where we didn't have to think before. Now we have to separate through, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Or is this not what I'm supposed to be doing? Now we have to know what chaos is. See, if you grew up in trauma and drama, you have to know what's real. You grew up in a simulation. It's all messed up. So now you have to realign the Torah. Some people think about Torah as just the head wraps, fringes, skirts. You know, I'm Hebrew. And it's like, okay, but it also, there's healing. There's a balm in that. And because you came from this, then you got a lot wrong here because it's prophesied. So while you fisting up, I hope you are on your knees, bowing down for Yah to heal from all the trauma. You are an ineffective servant of Yah if you are unhealed. Ineffective. You cannot help anybody, like nobody. And it's tragic because we have a lot of people who will take their service, but we don't want their wholeness. Say it again. We'll take their service, but we don't want their wholeness. So when we now are working, we're working through eating. Just we have to consume and think about. I asked a question the other day. I said, do we live based upon what is presented in front of us or placed in front of us, or what is present? What is consciousness? So is it what I'm experiencing right now, or what I've been allowed to experience? I know that sounds ethereal, but let me explain what I mean. It's both. Every moment of your life, you have to be in discernment mode. That's why it says be mindful and be vigilant. You're always on high alert. That's why we're sober-minded. We sleep, we're children of the day, not children of the night, right? Because we have to be constantly watching what's going on around us. Constantly watching. We have now entered into a realm because of sin where we have to be discerning between the character of people and what our gut is telling us. So we have to know the character of people based upon the word, and we have to have our gut trained based upon the word. So the word tells us what to eat so that our gut can run clear and pure, right? And then it tells us how to feel and how to judge people based upon the character that Yah sets up in the scripture. So now we are able to, in his grace and mercy, even in our fallen state, be able to walk as if we weren't. That's the beauty of coming into Torah. You walk in wholeness. You walk in fullness. You walk upright now. You don't have to be deceived. You don't have to wonder. Our wondering is based upon the fact that we don't want to know. It's ignorance. And there's no law in the Bible that saves you from your ignorance. You can go to hell in ignorance. It's like, I didn't know. You had a whole book. That don't work. And you could have asked, and I gave you time, and then y'all gonna play back. Remember when that person did that? Remember when you had that? Remember when you said you couldn't do that? Remember when you let that seed stay there? Remember? Like, dang it. Like, no, you have time. This life is very short. That's why I call it a simulation. This can't be the whole thing. It sucks. Sorry to use that word, but it does. This can't be it. It's too short. We lose people. People die. Relationships fall apart. Like, no, this is not it. So if this is just a little bit of time, then this is a time where you get it right. This is a time where you lean in and hear Yah. This is where you make the decision. People say, if Yah had put me in the garden, I wouldn't have. Well, you're in the garden right now. The tree is right in front of you every day. What are you choosing? What are you eating? What are you ingesting? What are you believing? What are you allowing to take root? You're constantly in that space, constantly having to guard your mind, your heart, your gut. You're constantly making those choices. He trains us very simply with food and with people. Food and people, that's it. Like, that's it. It's just food and people. That's life. Like, that is life. It literally is. And so if that's our training ground, it's been made very simple. Like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Choose between the food and the people? Like, choose what you take in and who you hang around.
That's good.
It's it. It's it. Wow. All right.
That's some good stuff, sis.
So let's get into the process of hearing. Just kind of, I'm going to move through this. I'll also post my notes too, just in case I left out something. So what is this process of hearing? Shema, is the practice of perfect consciousness. it is taking everything to the Father. If Joah would have heard the serpent, what he said, they had the conversation. Even though the conversation was a mess, like she probably shouldn't have that either, but let's just say the conversation wasn't where it all went back, because it wasn't. Her eyes weren't open just from the conversation. Her eyes are open from the action. It was the eating, and then she ate and her eyes open. She would have took that. Can I touch this? Okay, I'll use this. And she would have said, Abba, can I eat it? And he looked at me and said, ain't this the fruit I told you not to eat? No. My daddy said I can't eat that, I'm sorry. And everything stays perfect. It was that simple. It was that simple, like a child. Like a child. We tell our children to do it. My kids know. Now, when you go there, don't you ask them what's ask them to change their gloves. They got the list run down, right? So if you eat something you're not supposed to eat, it's because you didn't ask me. Because I told you. I would have read the ingredients. I would have looked at it, right? That was the problem. We're in that same space every day. Like a child, we want to be adults. I know what to eat. I ate this before, it's good. Well, you didn't know that time you had Mexican food, they used lard. I really like Mexican food, so I'm just telling you the truth. So you're like, oh no, I just had chicken taco dipped in pork fat. That's how they cook. So you have to ask. You have to start asking questions. And Nefesha, she took a Nazarite vow. So she is like, the strong drink, the grape, anything made from a grape. I feel like sometimes I have taken a Nazarite vow, I'm just going to say, because I'm a pack animal. So I don't want to eat what she can't eat. That's not fun. I want you to taste it and be like, ooh, that's good. And I'm like, ain't it? So food is that for me. So, but the ingredients, and something that I've learned in her process is if it has too many ingredients, leave it alone. This is from her, not from me. She's writing a book. It's called Notes of a Nazarite. So we'll message everybody, let them know. One of the things she talks about ingredients in things, and she's like, same thing with life. If it has too many ingredients, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Take it to Abba, let him read it. If he says it's not for you, it's not for you, and just leave it there. So if she would have taken it to him, the whole scenario ends. This is over. Shema is looking at what is present and what is placed in front of us with a single eye, with sharp laser focus, and saying, yeah, what about this? And then Yah says, no, hear him clearly, because what? His character precedes him. He can be trusted.
Absolutely.
And your gut gonna feel it, because he's gonna put it there. We all know. We be choosing against our gut. You're like, I knew I shouldn't have. So, trust it. Matthew 6:22 says, the light of the body is the eye. Oh. Everybody's like, oh no, those people out there talking about your eye. Well, it's right here. The light of the body is your eyes. That's how light enters your body. Literally, that's how the eye functions. They steal everything from us, by the way. Don't let people convince you that what's in the Bible is esoteric or ethereal. It's right here. They get it from here, and then they rewarm it, and then feed it back to you. Believe what's here. The Messiah said it, and he wasn't some Zen Buddhist. He was Yah in the flesh, like right here. There. Okay, he says, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore that eye be single, the whole body will be full of light. I have a personal experience with this. I won't explain it because I love to tell stories, but I had LASIK eye surgery. So I have the experience of knowing what it's like for light not to reach all the way back and to have terrible vision. And then for them to do a 3-second, what it felt like surgery, and all of a sudden reshape the cone, let the light hit the back, and now I got 20/20 in one and 20/15 in the other. I had 2400, by the way. It's terrible, almost legally blind, 20 in my 20s. She laughed. You did that to me, genetics. Said the whole body shall be full of light. But if thy eye be evil, this is not the word evil, oh, you got evil eye, the eye of Ra. No, it literally means it literally means to be dysfunctional. It's not functioning properly. That's the word for evil. It's Ra. It literally is Ra, by the way. Wow. the word is wrong. It means dysfunctional. Your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness. Now that is a whole nother something for a whole nother day. How great is that darkness? What's in front of you? What's your experience? No man, but as he goes on with, no man can serve two masters. So you can't have two things. You can't be double-minded. You can't have dual experiences. Merge your duality. Merge it. Who you are and who you're supposed to be, they got to meet. And one has to hit the road and make room for the singleness of who Yah wants to be. Learned a term recently called liminality. It's the process, when a person is the process of ritual. Don't take ritual the wrong way. In your process of developing who you're supposed to be. Or you're in the process of doing something to be cultivated into that person. And you're right in the middle. You've started the process and you're not who you used to be anymore because you started the experience. But you haven't finished it, so you're not quite who you're going to be. A lot of us are stuck right there. Stuck right there. So don't let liminality limit you. Push through. Push through. Push through. Because no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. See, we've been holding to a former self. We've been holding to the master of who we used to be. We like that. We want to keep things. We want to carry around dead bodies. Well, dead bodies stink. And that's who you used to be. When you come into this, you are a new creature. You now have a new name and a new womb to be formed in so that you can hear and experience. Yeah. So we've talked about it, what you consume, right? How you separate, the false myths about you that you destroy, and how you nourish your mind and body. You have to eat right. When Yah took Israel out of Egypt, he broke their diet down so simple. You get manna. And manna was so like, it literally is called manna. What is it? That's literally what it's called. Like, what is it? It is what it is. That's what you're going to eat. But he changed their diet because he understood something. And I can't teach their minds until I change what they eat. A lot of us need a cleanse. Not just eating clean. Because you have to cleanse from what you were eating before.
That's right.
So that your body can absorb the nutrients of the new things. Spiritually, just the same. You have to cleanse from what you were eating before so that you can eat the word in purity. Because you're going to start filtering it through all the things from before. And if you don't filter, then you will turn back and say, I really like what I was eating over there in Egypt. They look full. Even though you know you were a slave. Like, the mind ain't right? You have to cleanse. He was like, you get water and manna. And maybe a little quail here and there. That was it. That was it. So we wanted them to nourish their minds, destroy the false myths, and separate. That's the first part of the process of healing. We have to nurture ourselves like we do everybody else. Ladies, we nurture everyone else. Everyone else's hopes, dreams, thoughts, experiences. Like, we are constantly pouring out and making sure everything happens for everybody else. I had to learn a hard lesson. And I said, I am not anyone's until I am mine first. Like, you can't be. You can't be. And that person who you are has to be given to Yah first. I got to be his first. And then I can be everybody else's. He's going to tell me how much I can be to you. Because I don't know my limit. We just keep giving, like the Energizer Bunny. You keep going and going and going. We have to nurture our soul. That's the part that was given to you to nurture before you were given children, a husband, friends. The soul was given to you. It needs to be strengthened, or all those other things will tear it apart. Kids will leave and get married. Spouses are their own individual entity. Yes, we're one together, but they're their own person too. So if you don't nourish you and you keep trying to say, here, take it. Here, take it. Here, take my soul. It's like, okay. You're like, I got my own soul to worry about. Like, and that's how, and then we get our feelings hurt. Yeah. So to hear, we have to nurture our soul. We have to protect ourselves mentally, physically, and emotionally. It doesn't mean put guards up, but it means to do it intentionally, to trust what you're feeling and what you're experiencing. One of the worst things you can do is to hand your child to somebody else and just walk away. Why? Because they are looking for you, right? That which is in you is like your baby. It's the most innocent, delicate part of who you are. Don't just hand that to anybody. Don't be that kid that wanders around just eating off of everybody's plate. Like, something, turn it off. I tell people all the time, they think I'm kidding. Like, turn me off. Talk to Yah. Then you can understand what I'm saying, or even if what I'm saying is what you're supposed to be hearing. You should be able to confirm what Yah is telling you by the teachers you have, not be being fed. Yah's feeding you. The Bereans said they tried everything in the Word. They're like, oh, I know the Word. And when somebody does something off, that's it. If you go to that person and say, hey, this don't line up with like, don't come in this walk and turn into what you were out there, whatever religious construct you were. And they say, oh, that don't mean that. Come on. So you're doing that again, huh? No, we're not doing that again. Choose you, nourish you, put your safety mask on, right? So that you can help those who need help. And you can glory in the wholeness that Yah is going to give you. The next one is stillness like calm water. So that's the min. If the water is already chaotic, how can you see the liberation of his word? Sometimes you have to stop and be still. Be still. Water that is still can reflect. Be water. You guys heard that? That's like totally some kind of like ancient Chinese, right? Being Bruce Lee, right? Be water. But that sounds so like, oh, here she goes. Man, water that is constantly moving in chaos, you can't see a reflection in it. And if Yah speaks, if the voice of Yah vibrates across the water, you would never know it. Because it looks like all the other vibrations. But if you're still and you're quiet, then when Yah speaks, even if he whispers, the water hovers. The Hebrew word for that is merchefet. Like it flutters above it, where you don't have to just move much, it just automatically reacts. That's how we need to be to hear Yah's voice. We have to calm from within. The world can be chaos. The world can be falling apart. But having that stillness of Yah within, he can whisper and say, now go that way. And you move, and then something crazy happened over here. He can say, today go left. And you always turn right, and you're like, I'm going left today. I have no idea why, but I'm turning left, and the whole bridge fall in. Like, tightly in tune. But you can't have all the other stuff going on. Don't believe the hype that breathing exercises are from other religions. Shinmim, character, breath. That's how we activate who we are, and that's how we experience who he is. Breathe. Breathing is the simplest reminder that the very breath you have is not yours. It's borrowed. It's borrowed. So when we know the breath is borrowed, then we live intentionally. Nobody likes to think about the fact that everybody has a time. And it's not going to be a good time for anybody, by the way, but everybody has one. There is a practice called impermanence. Nothing here is permanent. This is a tabernacle. What's inside of you is eternal, though. You have to connect to that and then make sure that it's securely fastened, daughters of Emunah, to him. When the body is no more, then that which belongs to him returns to him. If you waste that which is within, then there's nothing. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. From the ground you came, and to the ground you return, and that soul gets cast where all things that do not belong to him and rebel against him go. Your job every day is to make sure that is connected to him. Don't let nobody throw you off of that.
That's right.
Breathe through. When they make you mad, breathe. Why? Because then I'm like, I can give you my soul. I'm like, I have to make sure this is connected to him. That's what people are for in the simulation, to distract you. Matrix, anybody seen the Matrix?
Yeah.
Lady in the red dress?
Yeah.
That's everybody.
Yeah.
Breathe. The breath is a reminder that you belong to him.
Hallelujah.
When we connect to our breath, we're reminded of the source of that breath. We become still and harmonize with the breath of our Creator. In that moment, we are still, and we prepare to receive instruction. Breathing is a detachment from chaos. It's a detachment from input around you. So if you have anxiety, breathe, detach, and garbage. The last one, we're almost finished, is the experience, the I part. Just put the eye on your neck looking at me. Where have you come from? People say this all the time. If you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. A lot of people come into the Hebraic walk and they re-identify themselves. That's cool. It's very good because Yah has named people and re-identified them, but you can't re-identify unless you let go. And you can't let go if you don't know where you come from, because you don't know what is in you. You don't know what you're bringing. Same thing with relationships. A lot of us get married, or we date, or, whatever people do these days. And you bring things and you carry things from place to place to place, and we fail to heal. And so you bring past experiences into present situations and wonder why the present situation ends up like the past. Introspection. Before you look out, look in. The easiest place to see is up close. It gets real hard when you try to see something far away. Look at you. Look at you. Ask Yah to look at you. Look at you. Ask Yah to judge your character. Align my character to your character. If you keep attracting the same things, it's because your vibe is that. Your breath is that. Your essence is that. Your intentions are that. And your gut is jacked up. If you attract positive, then you'll know. And guess what? Even if you attract negative, right? Because guess what? Positive does attract negative. People see healing and they're like, oh, let me get on. It's like a bunch of people drowning in the water and somebody starts swimming and then everybody jumps on the person that's swimming. It's that thing. Know how to deflect that too. And you gotta do your own healing. I can tell you what I'm doing. I can tell you what Yah's doing for me, but I can't do it for you.
That's right.
Where are you going? You need to know where you're going. You're not walking in circles. We're not 40 years in the wilderness, marching around, marching to our death. That's not it. We've done that. Done that already. When Abraham is a perfect example, was searching for Yah. He didn't just find Yah. Our ancestors and our patriarchs weren't these like mystical floating beings who just got everything right. No, his journey is a journey of getting it wrong, but staying with Yah. Yah was training him. He gave him a name, a character. And then he gave him experience and a womb experience to go back through and become who he's supposed to become. That's what this is right now. We have not arrived. Sorry. Take the GPS, turn it back on. This is not the destination. This is just the beginning. This is the beginning of the work. I mean, you've probably heard this in church. Like, if what the Messiah did was just about getting saved, then everybody would die the day they get saved. Right? What he says when he gives his sacrifice is, it is finished. It's actually the term for when the mohar, right? When the bride price is paid. I've paid for my bride in full. She got some work to do. I'm gonna go and prepare a place like the man's supposed to do. I'm betrothed. And now you have to work that out. You have to learn my ways. You have to learn what I like to eat, where I like to be. Tell people, I'm like, win your family with love. Like, we love men, right? We're like, oh, what does he like? What's his favorite food? What's his favorite color? Where's he like to go? Love, the greatest love, should be for the master, right? What does he eat? If he eats it, you eat it. If he don't like you to wear it, don't wear it. We do it for men every day. So then why can't we do it for him? I don't want you watching that. Oh, no problem. Oh, that's okay. Whatever you like. Like, that's that's it. Why can't we be that there? He's trying to control me. Like, really? No. So we see that. We see that with Abraham. He was being trained, and he was willing to be trained. His life wasn't perfect. He like literally whored his wife off twice. Like, that's the truth. It's in the story. He was like, my life, we gonna go in my life, and we gonna work this out. Y'all gonna cover your rest. He was learning how to trust Yah. He was learning Yah's character. So every time that Yah rescued Sarah, Yah was showing him something about him. He's like, hey, she's yours. I know she's fine if you want her, but she's yours. Chill. And the promise I have, I'm going to do it the way I said I'm going to do it. And you're going to trust me. And every time you try to go around it, he keeps recovenanting with him. If you ever want to do something cool, look at how many times Yah has to bring Abraham back and say, all right, I'm going to make you, and I'm going to do with you. He tells him over and over and over again. It's okay that you don't get it the first time. Yah knows. He has taken into account your human error. But walk with him anyways. Keep coming back. Don't hide from him like Adam and Shua. Don't go off into the forest and be like, oh, we heard him. You know why you heard him from a distance? Because you was hiding. If you'd have been right there, he would have told you how to fix it. Now he has to search for you. Now you're lying and covering up and doing a bunch of other stuff like y'all can't see you. No. Abraham experienced a truth of separation, a truth of breaking away from the voices that were louder than Yah's. He grew up in a house of idols. And he was trying to hear Yah. And he started searching for everything. And Yah told him, this is how Yah speaks to me. I don't know if y'all have these experiences. Yah is like 2 words. Lech lecha. He said, go for you. Literally what it means. And then he goes, leave your country, leave your kin, leave your father's house, and go for you. That word literally means go for your sake. I got something for you. Just go. Just go. He didn't tell him where. And because Abram wanted it so bad, he was like, I'm out. Yeah, like literally, like, I'm gone. Yah is calling you to an experience that's for you. That's for you. And guess what? 2 people who cannot agree. 2 cannot walk together unless they agree. That's just what the word is. So you saw with Lot and Abram. He was like, you go ahead, you pick the side you want to go on. Because I got to go toward the experience. He has something for me. And Yah walked him all through that experience. And we are the living evidence of the experience that Yah gave him. He went like he was supposed to and made way. Each and every one of you here today are the evidence of somebody who a lot of people didn't make it through slavery. A lot of people didn't make it through the Trail of Tears. Yes, I meant that when I said it just like that. A lot of people didn't make it. Someone before you was intentional about you. No matter what anybody else says, somebody dealt with atrocities that have never been spoken so that you could be right here in this experience. Why listen to what somebody else has to say when Yah literally had somebody go before you to make room for you? Why squander that? Yah has gone before you to make room for you. Literally, it's like, I have an experience for you. I want you to see something about me. And when I work out what I work out in you, other people are going to be blessed. Like, I want to be a blessing. Walk. I want to be a blessing. Go. I want to be a blessing. Do. I want to be a blessing. Change. I want to be a blessing. Show his character. Show what he's doing. When Yah calls us onto his path, we start packing up the path. Start packing up people, things that we think we need for the journey. Yah's like, leave it. He's literally telling us, I got it. Just come on. If a man tell you that, come on, baby, I already picked your clothes up, girl, I got your dress, I got the place picked for dinner, we go. Okay. Yah says, come on, and he's holding heaven and earth in the balance and breathing for you and clothing the grass, and he says, let's go. You're like, are you sure I can trust you? What if I'm hungry? He's like, I've never, the righteous forsaken? And is he there? Oh, you don't know me yet. Oh, you're saying you know me. That's cute. I gotta show you something. He says, you don't need provision. You don't need luggage. I've already packed everything. He brought water out of rocks, and they walked 40 years in the wilderness, and their shoes didn't wear out. Come on. And he asking you to do something.
Yes.
Hearing Yah is leaving everything else behind to go where he says. And when he asks us to go somewhere, he's going with us. So you're going with him. You're like, yeah, I want to go with you. He's like, come on.
That's it.
To a place where he's going to work out the weeds and purge for the bearing of good fruit. Ever since the beginning, in the fall, there's been a contrary seed bearing fruit in us. And Yah wants to uproot that seed and plant his righteous seed. Just like we see the failures of Abram and Isaac and other patriarchs, Yah accounts for that. He knows. He already knows. He knew we had the flaws. He knew our brokenness. He knew what we would bring to the table, but he called us anyways. He said, where other people weren't willing, I'm willing. Where other people said, you too much, you're not enough, you're not too much for me. I got it. We can be healed if we obey. And we have to keep obeying. And when we're healed, then our marriages are healed. Our friendships are healed. Our fellowships are healed. These places should be oases in the wilderness, because that's where we are right now. We go to those places because they remind us of who we are and who we journey with. Yah wants us to cultivate a lifestyle of an inclined ear and heart. He wants your gut. He wants your inward parts. He wants the driver's seat. He wants to take you to deeper depths and higher heights. Trust his character. Trust his voice. Learn his voice through reading his word. Confirm his voice in his word. Obey him and be made whole. As long as you are near him and can hear his voice, you are perpetually whole. If you are with the master, you're always whole. The last thing we have, and I'm going to read through it, and I'll give you, you guys can do the practice. The Shema is on the last page. I'm going to read it to you guys in Hebrew. I don't know if you guys ever heard it all the way through. I know we do that first part in the song, but I'm going to read to you the whole thing. So what's the daily practice, the daily maintenance? Because it's good to hear good stuff, right? It's good to hear things. But how do I take this home? Hold on, I'm not you. I don't have notes and book and the paper you're reading off of and stuff. How do I do it? Yah has a whole passage called the Shema. It's literally Deuteronomy 6:4-9. And it's literally the daily maintenance. It's actually supposed to be said twice a day. And that's not just something I learned from Jewish people. It literally says when you rise and when you lay down. It's in the text. You're supposed to say it 2 times a day, and in it is everything I just told you. I cheated. I stole it from here. All that was just here, just is drawn out. So I wrote here, hearing the voice of Yah is imperative to remaining secure in this world. It is required to do the simplest task, but also to achieve deeper complexities of a transformed lifestyle. Hearing Yah's voice in his word and using what we know about his voice in his word to establish him as the authority within is the goal. Over the past few months, Yah has been showing me the training grounds of his word. Just like a diligent soldier learns the ins and outs of the army for which he has enlisted, the Israelite is required to cultivate areas in our lives through active practice that allows us to walk upright amongst the nations and remain in the right relationship with the Father. The Shema is the perfect consciousness, knowledge, and awareness. It is the passage that we all should know because it is the blueprint of the life of one who is seeking to cultivate a life attached to Abba Yah. We're going to conclude today by looking at the Shema passage in conjunction with what we learned today about the Hebrew word Shema. And we're going to use the Shema, Deuteronomy 6, should be 4 through 9, as the maintenance for having our ear tuned into the voice of Yah. I'm going to read it in Hebrew, and then we're going to go through and read it in English, and I want you to just reflect on what we said. But I think anytime we can hear our language, we should go ahead and hear it. You guys agree? All right. The transliteration, so you'd be like, she just making stuff, is also on the page. All right. Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad. Ve'ahavta et Yahuwah Elohecha bechol levavcha, uvchol nafshecha, uvchol meodecha. V'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi metzvecha hayom al levavcha. V'shenantam lebanecha v'dabarta bam beshetecha bevetecha ulektecha bederek ukshubecha uhumecha. Ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot ben enecha. Uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. Girl, what you say? Shema, hear all that we talked about. All of this is what we're Shema. O Israel, Yahuwah your Elohim is one. And you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. That's the experience. And you shall, and these words, which I command thee this day, shall be in your heart. It shall be your authority within. And you shall teach them diligently to your children. And you shall talk about them when you sit down in thy house, and when you walkest by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. If you're teaching them, walking in them, then guess what? They're ever present. They become your guide. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand. Everything you do shall be measured by these words. And as frontlets between your eyes, focus, guiding how you're seeing. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And then those on the outside will experience what Yah is doing in you.